Awesome. Well, I think we can kick things off. See a pretty good turnout. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our August launch today. We've been super busy here at Tonic. We have a lot of great new features and UIs to share. But before we get into those, I'd like to quickly introduce my colleagues. Joining us today are Ander Steele, our data scientist, who will be introducing smart linking, which if you've read the content on our blog, it's our new variational autoencoder generator, which basically means it makes use of deep neural networks to generate really high fidelity data for both development and data science use cases. And then we also have product manager Casey Alderetti, who will be going over a number of new releases in Tonic, from webhooks to Google SSO. And I'm Kiara Columbi. I'm on the marketing team. Always happy to connect with all of you today. I'll also be your question asker. So if you have a question you'd like to ask, you can drop that in the Q&A at any time. You can also just drop it in the chat. I'll look out for them there as well, and I'll ask them of our speakers as they come up. I've already talked about some of the features that we will be going over today, but as a quick agenda, like I mentioned, first we'll be talking about smart linking, making use of deep neural networks in data synthesis. Then we've got a new workspace view, which is great for getting a full visibility into your workspaces across Tonic. Webhooks is a new feature that enables triggering actions outside of Tonic. Privacy Hub, which many of you may be already familiar with in our UI, has a brand new look with some great new features in there. And we also now offer Google SSO integration. So now that you've got the agenda, I will pass things over to Ander for smart linking.
Great, thanks, Kiara. All right, so here's just a quick view of this new feature, and let me tell you more about this. So smart linking is our new generator, which uses deep neural networks to learn the relationships or links between columns in your tables. And the rich expressive powers of deep neural networks results in synthetic or mimic data that preserves the statistical properties of the data. This variational autoencoder, like in some detail, learns probabilistic encoder and decoder models, which translate your complicated data distribution to a simpler distribution. And now we can sample that distribution, pass data through the decoder and get high fidelity synthetic data. And so this data is really aimed at your data teams, which might use this for prototyping dashboards or prototyping machine learning models, debugging these things. And we'll explore all these, well, primarily the model use case in this brief case study. So one of the standard benchmarks for synthesizing tabular data is the UCI adult data set. This is extracted from the 1994 census and consists of demographic information as a mix of numeric and categorical data. This data set consists of 14 features and one label. This label is whether or not an individual in the census, that income is above or below a certain threshold. Here it's 50K. And this data set comes pre-split, if you will, into a train and test data set, approximately 32K records and 16K records, respectively. And so what we've done for this case study is we've run this training data only through smart linking generator, which you can now do on your environments or on app.tonic.ai. I'll present you a summary of these results, comparing the synthetic data through smart linking with the holdout data set, which smart linking hasn't seen. And just to point out and be clear, most of this analysis was done in Python outside of Tonic, but we'll just walk through this quickly. And so the first thing I want to show is how well do we preserve the statistics of individual columns. And I hope from this graph, we communicate that our distributions of synthetic data match very well with our distributions of real data. The continuous variables, which include things like age and this numeric feature of final weight and education number, these all look quite good. And the categorical features, show similar distributions. And so, great. I mean, this is important, but maybe not the most exciting thing about this data, because we achieve the same results by essentially sampling, randomly sampling for each column from your real data. And then destroying the links or the relationships between the data. So let me try and convince you that we've actually preserved the relationships and learned the relationships in the synthetic data in these next few slides. And so in this first slide, what I've done is drawn the distribution of one of the continuous features here, age, grouped by a categorical feature, in this case, relationship. And so on the left, we have the real data, and on the right, we have the synthetic or smart linking data. And you can see, like from this distribution, that we kind of capture the shape of each of these kind of conditional probability distributions, which is great. That's what we'd like to see. And if you look at just the numeric features, we also see the kind of preservation of correlation. Here these correlograms are showing the Kindle's rank correlation. So in particular, like if you look in the left-hand side, we see like, increases in age correspond to increases in hours per week. And we see that relationship preserved in the smart linking data set, which is all great. So we've preserved like relationships between the categorical and numeric features and preserved relationships within the numeric features. But what we want to do, what I want to communicate is how this data can be used to train machine learning models. And so recall, again, this data set consists of 14 features and one label. The label is whether or not the person in this represented in that row has an income greater than or equal to 50K. And so we train models to predict this flag on one, the real data set, and two, the mimicked smart link data set. And then we evaluate these two models on the held out data set. Which, reminder, smart linking has not seen, none of these models have seen. Okay, so this is an honest evaluation of the performance of these models on new data. So we evaluate the performance of several models using this these ROC curves, and we see like while the real model has like an ROC of 0.9 for the random forest classifier, 0.921 for the gradient boosted trees classifier, smart linking has a comparable, if lower, score of like 0.861 for random forest, 0.884 for the boosted trees. And this is robust across different types of models. So if you do this for logistic regression or multi-layer perceptron, I mean, what you see is that the smart linking model performs well on the real data, not as well as the model trained on synthetic data, but it's enough to kind of understand if there's signal in this problem. And clearly there is, I mean. But even more, if you look at feature importance for these models, like you can take, for example, the random forest model that we trained on the real data and the synthetic data, and you can see which features are most important. And you can compare those between the real and synthetic model. And we see like the most important features for both the real and the synthetic model are like the final weight, work class, and age. And of course, it's not perfect, but it's a very good indication of what's going on. And so we think of this as a powerful tool for being able to like prototype or debug machine learning models on sensitive data that, for example, your offshore data team can't access the real data, but they can access synthetic data in order to do this debug process.
Can I jump in with a quick question before the?
Oh, of course.
Demo? Yeah, because I think you're already starting to answer that. We're looking at ML training use case, data analysis use case. Who really needs this tool? Who stands to benefit from it?
Yeah, great question. And I think this tool is really great for data science teams in particular, or data engineering teams. If you have to prototype or debug analytics dashboards, make sure that the data that you're pushing through actually looks real. This is great. Or developers that just need higher fidelity data than what's typically available.
As a follow-up to that question, how are we seeing our customers using smart linking?
Yeah, so the use case I mentioned of like, essentially debugging models, for example, a logistic regression model which is trained on a large sensitive data set, which can't be shipped overseas to your data team, but they need to be able to understand what's going on with the model. you train a synthetic model, you can debug on smart linking data. And so what's great about this tool is it integrates naturally with your existing Tonic workflows. Now, I'll show you how that looks, for example, with this table. And so here we have like our customers table, which actually looks very similar to the UCI adult data set in this table. And so we already have, protected a few of these columns with name columns and integer key generator. But now, in order...
Oh, sorry, could you just toggle the preview so people can see if they're not familiar with the UI?
Oh, yeah. Works? Definitely. So here we have our raw data, and then here we have the synthetic data, or preview of the synthetic data. And so now, in order to train a smart linking model, all you do is click on the columns in a table that you want to feed through, select the smart linking generator. It will automatically guess the type of the data. And so, for example, this column is categorical. This column is also categorical. Oops. And it's going to create a model of this data, and we can continue linking these things. And you can select whether it's the data is numeric, categorical, or location, which are the 3 data types that we currently support. And then once you go click generate, it's going to go off and train the deep learning, the variational autoencoder, and sample that decoder model to generate your high fidelity data. And this integrates seamlessly with your existing workflows.
Awesome. Thanks for the demo. I do have a question that came through. You mentioned a little bit earlier how you performed your analysis of the data. What's Tonic's role in the evaluation of the data's fidelity?
Yeah, so Tonic right now is just responsible for producing the data. The evaluation of the fidelity is currently done all out of the product, but wait, in the future, we'll certainly have some of these analyses in the product for you.
Excellent. And another question that just came through, can you set a random seed or equivalent to deterministically repeat a particular synthetic data set?
Once the model is trained, yes.
We do have another follow-up question. VAEs have knobs to adjust how you sample from a distribution, e.g. temperature. Are those exposed in Tonic?
Not currently.
Are there any plans about that in the future?
We'd love to talk.
Okay. Excellent. Great. Thank you, Ander.
I'll stop sharing and pass it over.
Okay, I think I got all the controls. Mute, shared, okay, everything in the right spot. Yeah, so I think as a transition, I love listening to Ander talk about everything because every time I listen, I get a little bit smarter about what's happening under the hood. And I think just thinking about smart linking, doing, the distribution, not only preserving the distribution, but also those relationships across columns. And I think the other really important thing is that it's always getting smarter, we're continuing to improve the model and how it works under the hood. And you don't have to build the model or know how it works in order to use it in your workspace. So in order to preserve those relationships, I don't necessarily have to know about building the model and training the neural networks. That's kind of all what Tonic is doing under the hood. And as far as transition, think about that as being the brains of Tonic, of just being really smart about how we create safe and useful data. And then I think of a lot of these other features as kind of the other parts of the body helping out, so this workspace view is the eyes. It's the visibility across everything that you're doing in Tonic. It's not necessarily a new tool, a new way to protect data, but it's ways of supporting our customers whose footprint of Tonic has grown over time. So, in this example, we've got, several different workspaces we're using for testing and demo purposes, but it's really pretty similar to how our customers do it. You'll often see different database types. So you'll have your Mongo and your Postgres. I don't know the numbers, but I would say probably at least half of our customers have at least 2 database types. All of your data does not fit into a MySQL database. You also have a Redshift instance or data in Snowflake or what have you. But there's also different destinations, different use cases. So I might be creating really realistic data for dashboards like Andrew was talking about, but I also might want to be creating local subsets for developers to troubleshoot or develop features on their laptops. So each of those destinations, each of those different policies that you might be applying to your data, maybe there's different tiers of privacy that's needed depending on the internal stakeholders who's consuming that data. As I mentioned with subsets, you can have different where clauses. So I could have one workspace where I'm only pulling the data for a particular region. And again, this fits well with the offshoring case. I could, keep my customer support team who's troubleshooting European customers separate and get that slice of the data, see that here in the workspace view. So, we're not really creating new capabilities with this workspaces view, but we're really enabling those centralized DevOps teams who are often, it's one or two people who are maybe supporting hundreds of developers and making sure that they can see where are my failures, where are the schema changes, where do I need to drill in and see, kind of bump this data along and where to refresh it. And so that's what this new workspaces pane gives you.
Can I ask jump in with a quick question? Within workspaces, would you see all of the workspaces in your organization, or would you only see yours?
Yes, so we're not changing how sharing works. And the way that Tonic works is that each creator of a workspace owns their workspace. You can see I'm the owner in a lot of these, but I will also see all of the workspaces that are shared with me. And this is part of our role-based access control, which is part of our enterprise offering. See some of the roles there. There's editor, auditor. There's also viewer. Viewer is one that has the least privileges. I cannot see the data that's there, but I can see that the workspace exists and see maybe some of the setting schema columns without seeing the actual data. So this workspaces view will continue to respect those permissions and will show you everything that has been shared with you or created by you.
Great, thanks.
Also looking new is the Privacy Hub. And I think of this as kind of the heart of Tonic. This is really core to what we do. This is the landing page when you log in to see what is my progress. What has Tonic identified as sensitive, or what have I identified as sensitive? And how am I doing against protecting those and figuring out the right strategy for how to mimic that particular piece of data. So really just new here is some of the facelift and the counts that are really a summary of some of the counts that you could have gotten before across your columns in all the tables for particular database schema. Again, this is specific to a workspace context. So I'm in a workspace right here looking at my progress. This one is the sleeper hit, I think. I think webhooks is a very simple solution, but it creates kind of these really robust workflows, and it kind of brings the focus onto whatever it is that you're using your data for. So, we realize that creating safe data is not something you're probably selling. That's just an input to your larger value chain. So, think about your developers that you're enabling, your data scientists that you're enabling, those digital experiences and websites and products that you're building. Webhooks kind of helps you kick off that next step in the process. So again, recognizing that you don't maybe want to log into Tonic to see, is my job done, refresh. So we have already a lot of customers doing some interesting things here with both of these examples that we've mentioned, Slack or GitHub Actions to notify what's the next step in the pipeline. It's part of your CI/CD pipeline. Maybe you're generating other environments as a result of the Tonic data being ready or completing. So definitely an area we're excited to expand to support any other use cases that aren't currently. So love to hear what people are using webhooks for and how Tonic fits into your bigger overall workflow.
I do have a question there too. Some folks are already familiar with post-job scripts and Tonic. Users can make use of both. Both are still available, right?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So post-job scripts was the first post-job action that we introduced. So it's just SQL scripts that can run after Tonic writes your new data. You might want to do some sort of changing of the data or running kind of a job using SQL code, and that will complete before webhooks kicks off. So you can think of it as Tonic writing your output data. The post-job scripts, which are SQL scripts, will be applied to your output database, and then the webhook will be triggered.
Great, thanks.
And again, with kind of the reaching out aspect of webhooks reaching out, again, think about this body analogy, moving from the smart linking to the workspaces view, privacy hub, webhooks, and then now Google SSO. So connecting to external identity management systems. And I have a lot of customers making use of this who, again, aren't managing Tonic as the only tool. That's not their whole job. This is one of many tools that they support to enable their teams. And so, we can respect group membership. So maybe you want to share a workspace with a particular compliance team so that they can audit those workspaces and those rules. Then they change teams. They no longer need access. You don't need to come to Tonic to manage that role update. We can respect that and use your centralized identity provider. And I think another way to think about, I was using the body analogy, but another way is just to think about your workflow. And workspaces view is allowing our customers to really grow their footprint and see and manage all of that and understand what Tonic is doing. Smart linking and the privacy hub are helping you as you are on your journey to protect all of that data and do that in new and better ways. And then with webhooks, it's all about thinking about what's next. How is this data going to be used downstream?
Awesome. Thank you, Casey. We do still have a couple questions that came through. So folks would like to stick around for Q&A. One question is, can you blend stochastic and rules-based generation? For example, generate a random city field subject to the constraint that it's in the randomly generated state field?
Right. I assume this is in the context of smart linking. That's a great question. In that particular example, the solution is just, feed everything through the smart linking generator and indicate that as location. But in general, not yet. But I have to think about that.
Well, we'd probably be interested to hear what's driving the need
exactly.
there. Certainly interesting combination. Because I assume when we talk about the rules-based, we're sort of talking about the non-smart linking side, right? And so we do support this in ways of linking categorical generators, custom categorical, things like that.
Yeah, right. Another question that just came through. Any plans to add text files, CSV text masking in Tonic?
We do support flat files largely through our Spark connector. So a lot of times we'll see like Parquet, Avro files, things like that. We have at different times supported, just CSVs or kind of file upload, but, wasn't really used in the way that customers expected. So we removed that, but the product's pretty flexible to probably support your use case depending on the file type.
Thank you. Another question about smart linking. Do smart linking features only use other smart linking features to determine values, or is it a value of a smart linking feature based on all features in the table?
Right. Currently it's the model is only seeing the features which are the columns which are using the smart linking generator. So the model is only responsible for those. But again, this is related to the previous question. So we'd love to learn more about this use case.
And another thing, I think a good follow-up to that is what types of data is smart linking most useful for?
Right. This is primarily for numeric data, categorical data, and location data, combinations of these.
Great. I think I only see one more question left in the chat. Is it possible for users to try Tonic out on their own, including smart linking? Anybody want to take that, or should I can take that too?
I can go for it, or you can add on.
Sure.
Yeah, so we do have a special opportunity right now. We have opened our sandbox program. So let us know if you'd like to try out the sandbox. There is a button to request, I think, access today. That'll be getting some updates this week. But we do have a limited 2-week trial on our hosted environment. It's got all of the features of Tonic in it. So you would get to play with things like smart linking as well. Yeah, we're really excited to be able to make that available to a lot of our technical customers who are, trying to evaluate Tonic, and it's hard to know without trying it out yourself.
And the one thing I would add to that is we also have a workshop coming up in 2 weeks' time to help you learn the ropes of Tonic. So if you do sign up for a sandbox, you can also get a sandbox at that event as well. And we'll just be able to help you on board as well. I see another question that came through. As of now, clustered PKs not supported in the GUI need to edit the JSON file to add multiple keys. Will the UI support this feature in the future? Oh, I mean to set foreign keys across tables.
Yeah, I don't think we have plans to expand the UI right now, but certainly happy to dig in more and look into this. I don't think there's necessarily a technical reason. If it's supported via the JSON upload, then we could probably look into doing that in the UI as well. Just for context for other people, so we have a foreign key tool in Tonic that allows you to create virtual foreign keys in case your source database does not have these relationships defined. This is particularly important for subsetting when we're trying to keep those references intact. So we do have a UI that lets you link and add foreign key relationships. And it sounds like there's a more complex use case here. And we also support uploading it via JSON in addition to doing the UI. So
I think I've seen this question come up before as well. Does Tonic have support for GraphQL? Have we had that question come up?
I have not gotten it.
Okay.
I have heard it in other jobs I've had. Yeah, I'd love to dig in to understand, because I think GraphQL is more of a front-end language, understand more where you're wanting to, plug in and use Tonic functionality using GraphQL, or how that fits in with your architecture. But no, that is not something that we've gotten before or have on our radar right now.
Okay. All right. If any other questions come through, we do have, a minute more we could spend on questions. And if not, I will wrap things up here. Thanks to everyone again for joining us. It's been great talking through smart linking. Thank you, Ander, for your demo. And Casey, thank you for the overview of all the other new features that we've got going on. If you think that smart linking in particular is the generator you've been looking for your development and data science teams, we'd love to chat. You can book a demo on tonic.ai. And as we also mentioned, you can also request a trial account also on our website. So yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us and join the workshop in 2 weeks as well. We've got more webinars coming up on our webinars page. Always check there for the latest. And thanks again to everyone.